They called her broken, a bride no one would ever choose. Sold for just $1, like she had no soul, no story, no future. But what no one knew was that the man who bought her wasn't looking for a perfect wife. He was looking for a second chance. And the woman they threw away was hiding a fortune no one could see. Not of gold, not of land, but of a heart strong enough to change everything. Stay with me, because by the end of this story, you'll realize, sometimes the most valuable things in life come wrapped in pain. The wind howled through the dusty streets of Red Hollow as people gathered near the auction post. It wasn't cattle being sold that day. It was something far worse. A woman. She stood there, her head slightly bowed, her dress worn and her eyes empty of hope. Her name was Eliza, though no one bothered to call her that anymore. To them, she was just the broken one. Rumors had spread like wildfire. She had been abandoned, mistreated, and left with nothing. Some said she brought bad luck. Others said she was simply too damaged to be loved. Men walked past her, barely glancing her way. Not worth the trouble, one muttered. I wouldn't take her for free, another laughed. Each word fell on her like stones, but she didn't react. She had learned long ago that silence hurt less than hope. Then, a horse stopped. Boots hit the ground. A tall rancher stepped forward, Daniel Hayes. Known in town as a quiet man, strong, respected, but distant. A widower who had lost more than he ever spoke about. He looked at Eliza, not with pity, not with judgment, but with something unfamiliar. Understanding. How much? He asked calmly. The man running the sale shrugged. No one wants her. $1, and she's yours. A murmur spread through the crowd. Some laughed. Some whispered. Daniel reached into his pocket and placed a single dollar in the man's hand. She's coming with me. Eliza looked up for the first time, confusion flickering in her tired eyes. Why would anyone choose her? The ride to the ranch was silent. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of gold and sorrow. When they arrived, Daniel didn't treat her like property. He opened the door and said softly, You're not a prisoner here. You can stay, or leave when you're ready. Those words hit her harder than anything else. Freedom. Something she had forgotten existed. Days passed, then weeks. Eliza expected harshness. Orders. Control. But Daniel gave none of it. Instead, he gave her space, respect, and something even more dangerous. Kindness. At first, she barely spoke. She kept her distance, doing small chores, avoiding eye contact. But slowly, something began to change. One evening, as the sky burned orange, Daniel found her sitting by the fence, staring at the horizon. You don't have to stay, he said gently. She shook her head. I don't have anywhere else to go. There was a pause. Then she whispered, Why did you buy me? Daniel looked out at the land, his voice quiet. Because I know what it feels like, to lose everything. For the first time, Eliza felt seen. Not as something broken, but as someone human. And in that quiet moment, a fragile bond began to form. But neither of them knew. The past she carried wasn't done with her yet. Winter came early that year, wrapping the ranch in silence and cold. But inside that small home, something warm had begun to grow. Eliza changed. Not all at once, but slowly, like the first light of dawn. She started to smile, faint at first, then real. She spoke more, laughed even, softly, like she was afraid it might disappear. And Daniel, he changed too. The loneliness that once followed him like a shadow began to fade. For the first time since his wife's death, the house didn't feel empty. But peace never comes without a test. One morning, a group of men rode into the ranch. Their leader stepped forward, eyes cold and sharp. We're here for the girl. Eliza froze. Her past had found her. She had once belonged to a wealthy but cruel family, treated not as a daughter, but as a burden. When she refused to marry a man chosen for money, they cast her out, spreading lies that destroyed her name. And now, they wanted her back. Not for love. For control. She owes us, the man said. And we're taking her. Daniel stepped in front of her. She doesn't belong to anyone. The tension in the air turned sharp. This isn't your fight, rancher, the man warned. Daniel's voice didn't shake. It is now. Eliza's heart pounded. Fear threatened to pull her back into the darkness she had just escaped. But then she looked at Daniel. And something inside her changed. For the first time, she didn't feel weak. I'm not going back, she said firmly. Silence fell. The men laughed. You think you have a choice? But this time, she stood her ground. I do. What they didn't expect was the truth she carried. Before she was cast out, her mother had secretly left her something, not money, not land, but knowledge. Letters. Documents. Proof of the family's corruption. A hidden truth powerful enough to destroy the very people who tried to own her. She had kept it hidden, buried deep, waiting for the right moment. And now, that moment had come. You should leave, she said calmly. Before you lose everything. The men hesitated. Daniel stood beside her, unwavering. For the first time, she wasn't alone. And that changed everything. Days later, the truth spread through the town. The powerful family that once controlled her life lost everything. Not because of revenge, but because of truth. And Eliza? She was finally free. One evening, as the sun set over the ranch, she stood beside Daniel, the wind soft against her face. You didn't just save me, she said quietly. You gave me a reason to live again. Daniel looked at her, a rare smile forming. No, he replied. You saved yourself? She shook her head gently. No, we saved each other. And in that moment, it became clear. The greatest fortune she had ever carried wasn't hidden in papers or power. It was her heart. A heart that refused to break, even when the world tried to shatter it. Sometimes life will label people as broken, as worthless, as lost. But the truth is, pain doesn't destroy your value, it reveals your strength. And the right person won't see your scars as flaws. They'll see them as proof that you survived. Because in the end, the richest people aren't the ones who own everything. They're the ones who still have the courage to love, after losing it all. If today's story touched your heart, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And remember, even a small act of kindness can change someone's entire life. Red Heart.